All right, our last storyteller before the intermission. Big round of applause for Keylee Koop. Keylee Koop. Come on, more than that for Keylee. Come on. There you go.
My Annie dress was custom made. It was this bright, beautiful red material with a white Peter Pan collar and a matching white belt. But the best part about my costume was the wig. My mom and I had searched for hours to find it, and it was perfect. Natural ginger red color, natural curls, not too loose, not too tight. I looked amazing in it. I was killing it. I was as Annie as any little girl could ever get. And I was also attracting a lot of attention that day because I happened to be wearing this costume in its entirety to school in my third grade class on a regular school day in May. My third grade teacher, Mrs. Clark, asked me in a slightly annoyed tone at the beginning of class why I was wearing a costume to school. Oh my God, I love that question. My favorite thing in the whole world was getting to say, "Oh, I have a performance this evening, Mrs. Clark. You understand?" Yeah, in my 9-year-old brain, I was a huge deal. I was playing my first lead role in a play, a real play, you guys, not some dumbass school skit, but a Waxahachie community theater production. I was a legitimate actress. And I was playing Annie, my dream role. I had been obsessed with this show since I was a little girl. Annie was so cool. I mean, yeah, she was an orphan, but she was spunky, she was smart, she was brave. She stood up to bullies like Miss Hannigan. She had awesome catchphrases like "leapin' lizards" and "I'm gonna rearrange your teeth." I wanted to be just like her. So when my community theater was having auditions, I was over the moon. And when I got cast as Annie, I was living my dream. Playing Annie that year really did change my life. See, my parents had this ugly divorce when I was 5 years old. My dad immediately remarried a woman with 2 sons who were both older than me, and my mom countered that by moving me and my siblings to a town far away from my dad. But we still had to visit him and his new family every other weekend. My oldest stepbrother, Brian, was 5 years older than me. For some reason, he singled me out and bullied me constantly every time I would visit. He would make fun of my lisp and the way I looked. He would do really weird things like come into the bathroom every time I was in the shower and just be in there. He always made excuses about needing something from the cabinets, but he never got anything. He made me feel uncomfortable in a way that I had never felt before. Then one night when I was 7 years old and Brian was 12, we all had to sleep on the floor in the living room of my father's house near a fire because a bad winter storm had taken the power out. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by the feeling of Brian's cold hand moving around inside of my Disney princess panties. I felt paralyzed. I didn't know what was happening to my body, but I was terrified and I knew I wanted it to stop. I didn't know what to do, so I just pretended to sleep until he finally pulled his hand away. The next morning, I didn't say anything. In my 7-year-old brain, I thought that if I told someone, they would tell me that it was somehow my fault. I had always been the most dramatic kid in my family. I was always on, always performing, always making up stories, sometimes getting into a lot of trouble because of that. My biggest fear was that this unwanted, cruel attention from Brian was caused by something that I did, and that I was the one to blame. So I was quiet. I didn't say anything to anyone for 2 years. Until I got Annie. And every day, singing her songs and saying her lines, I became more like this redhead I idolized. By pretending to be a brave little girl, I was finally able to be a brave little girl myself. I told my mom about what happened with Brian, and she contacted Child Protective Services. I was told that they would come to my school to interview me, but I didn't know it would be that day. So there I was, sitting at my desk, looking like an Annie version of Where's Waldo in a sea of regularly dressed third graders, when I heard my name called over the intercom. I was greeted in the hallway by a friendly-looking man and woman who led me into a conference room with a tape recorder and asked me to tell them the story about Brian and that winter night. And I did. I told them everything. I was really, really brave. In Annie's shoes, I was able to start what I know now is a lifelong process of removing the shame and self-blame that come with sexual abuse. And I am so grateful to Annie for giving me that chance. Because with every word that I spoke into the tape recorder that day and that I speak in front of all of you tonight, I knew and I know more and more that it wasn't my fault. Thank you.